Hello, everyone, and welcome to At Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer, and welcome to our guest, Greg Fleming, CEO of Rockefeller Capital Management. Greg, great to see you.
Great to be here, Andy. Thanks very much.
I want to ask you a couple questions about your company. First of all, maybe just explain to us exactly what Rockefeller Capital Management is and what they do.
Rockefeller Capital Management is focused primarily on wealth management for high net worth and ultra high net worth clients. And the way that we work with those clients is to try to provide a comprehensive set of services so that we become really the one stop for them on all of their financial needs. And we deliver those services through best-in-class private advisors. We have two ancillary businesses alongside our wealth business. One is our strategic advisory business. We call it Rockefeller Global Investment Banking. We built that when we started the company as well from scratch, because so many Americans who have made wealth have done it by building a business. And we wanted to be able to give them advice on that business. So we've got a boutique investment bank, and we also have an asset management business we call Rockefeller Asset Management. That's a business that has several very high-touch strategies that are available both to our clients in Rockefeller Global Family Office, and we also offer those capabilities to institutional clients and through intermediaries.
And the second question, Greg, is tell us about the rich history of the company and then some more recent partnerships that you've made.
Sure. So I'll go back a little bit, Andy, on the Rockefellers. So
Yeah.
John D. Rockefeller, the family patriarch, started the family office for the Rockefellers in 1882. So arguably, it's the oldest family office in the country. We haven't gone and tried to check that, but we think that. It became a multi-family office in the 70s. In 2018, we, and I'll get to in a second who the we is, bought Rock & Co., which was that family office, the Legacy family office, all the way through to 2018. We renamed it Rockefeller Capital Management because we wanted to be clear that while we were in partnership with the Rockefellers, we were going to take care of many American families that were high net worth and ultra high net worth. The Rockefellers, yes, but many others. We were going to build a business across the country to take care of high net worth and ultra high net worth Americans. So the we was the Rockefeller family. They rolled some of their ownership in Rock & Co. into Rockefeller Capital Management, and they remain shareholders with us today. And then our major capital partner was Viking. It's their private arm run by a guy named Brian Kaufman. They were our capital partner investing alongside the Rockefeller family and senior management.
And you have some Canadian investor as well.
We do. That's more recent, Andy. Mm-hmm. That was last year, and that's the Demay Family, who has a long history in Canada. And I have actually a long history with the second generation who's currently running the Demay interests, which is through Power Financial in Canada. The father started Power, Paul Demay Sr., way back in like the 60s. His sons, Paul Demay Jr. and Andre, run the businesses today. They're co-chairman. I've known Paul since my Merrill Lynch days. He was on our International Advisory Board way back in 2005. I've gotten to know Andre in the last decade. They're great long-term investors. So we brought them in last year, April of 2003, to own a piece of the business alongside the Rockefeller family and Viking.
And so what is your strategy going forward with the business right now, Greg?
What we wanted to do, and we have been doing, Andy, and now we're well into our 7th year, we wanted to take this legendary name, and it is an incredible name, Rockefeller, not just in the United States, but around the world. And I just want to pause for 1 second and give you some sense of the things that happened after the first generation. So John D. Rockefeller Sr., he made all of the money, and it was a tremendous amount of money at the time, maybe as much as 4% of U.S. GDP at the time, which would be $1 trillion in today's economy. So there was tremendous wealth, but then the second generation, John Rockefeller Jr., was really the world's first great philanthropist. So the Rockefeller family started Spelman College in 1884 to educate freed slaves, named after Laura Spelman Rockefeller, 19 years after the end of the Civil War. Rockefeller University, where many Nobel Prizes have been awarded. The University of Chicago, the Museum of Modern Art, Lincoln Center, the Asia Society, more national parks than we have time for me to name. Acadia in Maine, Grand Teton, Jackson, Wyoming. They built a hospital in Beijing in 1920 that's still there today and is one of the finest hospitals in China today. So the reach of the family name is everywhere, and it's widely respected everywhere. So that name has been a fantastic part of our success.
Just a quick side note, my brother and I were in Beijing in June, and he had a slight mishap and was in that hospital.
Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
And did he go, there's a Rockefeller wing there.
Right. I don't
Yeah.
know if he was in that wing, but it was right there.
Next time
So,
I want him
yeah,
to go to the
right.
Rockefeller wing.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's not another mishap.
Yes, exactly. So talk to us about what your clients are looking for right now. What do they see? What are their ambitions? And how has that changed over the past recent years, say?
We work with clients on a very long-term basis, and we work backwards from a financial plan. And our private advisors typically have worked with these clients for many years. So one of the things that we counsel them all the time is to stick with the plan. Markets go up and down, things happen that are unpredictable, but we have a long-term plan in place with these clients, and they adhere to that plan. And that's part of the value that the private advisor brings. They keep them calm in moments of market dislocation and with big things happening. One of the things that we work with our clients on is not just the investment side. A lot of firms are in the industry of trying to provide investment advice to high net worth clients. We want to help them with wealth strategy, which is tax and estate planning. We have philanthropic advisory. We'll help build a foundation and have it work according to the needs of the client and what the client's looking for. Financial education, second, third generation. If they're not as financially educated, we provide that. I mentioned we have the Global Investment Bank, where if the family owns a business, we'll provide them advice. They're already our client in Rockefeller Global Family Office. So we're trying to provide all of the different services that the client's looking for, the family's looking for, through this elite private advisor who's the tip of the spear. That's the essence of our strategy. When we started, we wanted to take the incredible brand name, Rockefeller, build it out across all the major wealth centers in the U.S. The traditional ones, Andy, that you and I have worked in for decades, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Dallas, Houston, New York, Boston, but the new wealth centers, Nashville, Austin, Charlotte, we want to be in those places as well. In those local markets, we bring in a handful of these elite private advisors, the best private advisors in the industry, and then we build a presence around those advisors in those markets. That's been the strategy from the start, and we've been quite successful in that strategy. We have close to 140 teams now in 30 major wealth centers, 50 cities. We've gone from 18 billion in client assets to 140 billion today.
What's your take on the capital markets right now? Maybe the capital markets, the economy, rates, what's going to happen with rates this fall?
Well, first of all, it's obviously been a good run in the economy. Inflation has come down and the Fed has been effective on that. We think they got a late start. Remember back to the phrase transitory inflation, but they're starting to catch up here and inflation is coming down. It's a pivot point. We talk about that a lot. The Fed is clearly heading into a different cycle. They're going to start dropping rates. The pace of that remains to be seen, and they're going to, we think, look at data as it comes in on a regular basis and adjust the rate at which they drop rates, depending upon what they're seeing in employment and in manufacturing and all the different things that make up the economy. So we're still optimistic that they've carried off this landing that is going to avoid a recession. Having said that, we are at this pivot point where they will continue to drop rates, where economic activity has slowed down, where all the employment numbers show that the job market has cooled off dramatically. So, we'll see where things go over the next 6 to 12 months in terms of the data versus the speed at which they drop rates. One of the things that I talk about when we look at the macro situation is the federal budget deficit, which is a big part of the equation because we have during relatively positive times here, or not even relatively positive times, been running a deficit as a percentage of GDP of 6-7%. That doesn't obviously typically happen when employment is high and unemployment is low. And somebody's going to have to get a grip on that moving forward now. So you're going to have some fiscal contraction at the same time that the economy slowed. That may cause the Fed to drop rates more aggressively if they do start to deal with the budget deficit because you'll be pulling things in on the fiscal side. But so far, there's no sign that anybody in the political world is really focused on deficit reduction. So that's a big part of the story moving forward.
Another part, I guess, this fall, of course, is the election. Any thoughts on that?
You know, what we say, and our advisors are very focused on this, and clients, it does matter who wins. There will be different policies coming out of whoever becomes the next administration here. From a tax standpoint, how to address the deficit, is it going to be addressed? And if so, is it going to be addressed more from the spending side or from the tax side? So our advisors and clients are watching it closely, and it's going to be an interesting couple of months from here.
Certainly is. I know you're a sports guy, and sports is really in the news right now in terms of it being an investing category. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that and if any clients have expressed interest in investing in sports.
Sure. It is a category that clients are interested in, and that high net worth and ultra high net worth in particular clients are interested in. And a lot of the investment in recent teams that have been for sale is investment through individuals, wealthy individuals. Andy, it's getting to the point, though, the scale of these teams and the price of these franchises, that institutional money is coming into that market more and more. Because if you have a sports franchise that's going to be priced at $4, $5, $6 billion, where some of the recent transactions have taken place, you're down to not that many individuals or families that can afford to be even the majority owner in a franchise of that size. So you are seeing more sports funds created, more interest in sports teams from private equity, and I think that's a trend that we're going to continue to see going forward, given the scale of what these franchises have become.
And there's also more teams, Greg. There's women's leagues, tertiary or smaller sports, second-tier sports, minor league teams. So there's all kinds of opportunities potentially, right?
Yes, and I think one of the things about professional sports that continues to be true today, and that will drive value creation going forward, is the fact that it's watched live. And if it continues to be one of the few things left that people of all generations, including my children are in their 20s, there aren't many things that generation will watch live and sit still for, but they do for professional sports. If that's the case, we think the value embedded in those franchises and in those leagues will be sustained going forward.
I want to ask you a little bit about your career, Greg. You worked at Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch in senior roles, running big businesses there. How has Wall Street changed over the years?
When I first came in, I joined Merrill Lynch in 1992. Some of the firms were either still partnerships, Goldman Sachs, which went public in the late 90s, or had recently gone public. So the capital was really moving into the industry through IPOs and through outside capital, but it still had some of that partnership feel in a number of the firms. Now you have these major global players, and the biggest scaled firms are enormous in size, and now you have boutiques alongside that with very little in the middle. There were a broader set of firms in the Wall Street and in the brokerage industry when I started, and there were, you had bigger firms, but it scaled on more of a gentle slope down to boutique firms. And now you have the giants, and then you have more boutique firms that tend to be more advisory as opposed to taking underwriting risk or having a lot of capital. So there have been dramatic changes over the 30-year period.
How would you describe your leadership style?
I like to, from a leadership standpoint, put in place a great team. And one of the nice things is, after 3 decades at this, I've worked with a lot of different people. They know what to expect with me. So I've gone out, and you get a world-class team. And then that's focused and willing to pay the price of excellence. We talk about excellence at Rockefeller Capital Management all the time. Excellence in everything that we do. One of my favorite quotations is Vince Lombardi, the football coach in the 1960s, who said, quote, "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase it, we might just catch excellence." We live by that. But once you have this world-class team in place, they're empowered. I want them to be really working together on a horizontal basis and driving the business themselves with input from me, but they're really empowered. And we try to have the culture at Rockefeller Capital Management feel collaborative and collegial every day. I believe in positive motivation. I think that if you can set up an organization, and we think we've done that successfully at Rockefeller, where people really like to work there, and you have world-class people doing that, and they like to come and work together, then you have a stimulating, energizing environment every day, and that should be possible. Your job doesn't have to be something. When I grew up, there were friends of mine who had fathers who were working at big companies, and they were just trying to get farther out in a retirement age so they could get a bigger pension. But they didn't like the job, so Sunday night was depressing and Friday evening was euphoric. Jobs don't have to be like that. You can work in an organization where you feel stimulated and motivated by your job, where you're coming off a vacation and you're actually happy and motivated to go back in the office. We've tried to set a firm up like that. But you have to deliver both parts of it, Andy. If it's a stimulating and positive place to work, but you're not very good, then you're not going to be around for a long time either. So we focus on excellence on one side and a collaborative, collegial, positive culture on the other. And we're looking to have the best and the brightest in the middle of that.
Interesting. You have been in education to a degree, taught at Yale Law School, your alma mater. We're on the board of Colgate, another school you attended, and Deerfield as well. What do you think institutions of higher learning are doing right, and what are they doing wrong right now, Greg?
Well, I think leadership is important there as well. And there are some really great leaders out there. You and I have talked about Deerfield Academy and John Austin. And it's important for those leaders to set up their leadership teams and their organizations, schools, to be places where the students and the faculty can work together in a intellectually dynamic and stimulating environment where all perspectives are shared, and you hear both sides of the issue. John Austin has been a big proponent of that at Deerfield Academy. So I think that like everything else, and I say this, Andy, this is true of academic institutions, it's true of corporations. You just heard me talk about Rockefeller Capital Management. It's true of governments. It's true of the military. Everything in life starts with leadership, really strong leadership.
And final question, Greg, what is some advice that you give to young people who are looking to either get into the job market or looking to advance their careers?
I have a top 10 list that I'll walk them through, our summer interns. And some of the things on that list have been there for decades. I've had that list, and I update it with things that I learn. We all keep learning over the years. But I tell young people to find something that they really are motivated by. I mean, Steve Jobs gave that famous Stanford commencement speech, and he said something along the lines of, we have only one life. Earn it. Make it work. Do something that you're really passionate in. So I tell young people, find something, find a place where you feel challenged and energized there every day. And the other thing I tell them is that it's not a linear path for anybody. At this stage in my career, many of my friends are running these companies, and we talk about things that have happened over the years. There are bumps in the road for everybody. There are things that happen that are unanticipated for every single person along the journey. It's how you respond to that. It's what you do with it that really defines ultimately what that path is going to look like when you're several decades in, as you and I are, more than just 2 decades in, and you're starting to look back as well as you look forward. A lot of the positive comes out of moments that you were facing, no matter who you are, that were the challenging times. So I tell them, just get ready for that. It's how you deal with it.
Greg Fleming, CEO of Rockefeller Capital Management, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Andy. That was great.
This is at Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer. We'll catch you next time.